Former Premier League referee Howard Webb once said that he learnt to say the word wanker in 13 different languages so he'd know what the players were saying about him.
Yeah, but I think if you said the word wanker, it doesn't matter what country they're from, they'd know exactly what it is. Trust me.
Trust me. This interview special is brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Play $5, get $50 instantly when you use code MIB. My guest today is a bona fide Premier League icon and one of English football's greatest powerballs. During his 20 plus years as a match official in England's top flight, he made over 550 Premier League appearances. If he were a player, that would put him sixth on the all-time list, just behind Frank Lampard and goalkeeper David James. He hung up his whistle for good in 2022 and has since made regular appearances on Sky Sports. Honestly, to me, he was the real star of Ted Lasso. Refereeing shapes the game we love so much that it's magical to have him come on and talk about the realities of football from an elite match official's perspective. So it's a joy to say, off you pop, the words he once said to send off Lewis Dunk to the one and only Mr. Mike Dean.
Hi, Roger. Okay. Nice introduction.
Oh, Mike, it is a joy to be here. I don't know if you've got any sense of what an icon you are over here. I've been so looking forward to this. Do you have any sense of what a star in the pantheon you are to Premier League football fans around the world?
No, I've got a rough idea. There's one or two things that people quite like about me over there. I think that obviously we're doing the Ted Lasso show as well. That's kind of probably raised my profile a little bit over on the other side of the pond, so to speak. So it's nice to be involved anyway.
Ted Lasso was just the cherry on the cake to the great body of work which you have dedicated your life to. And I want to go back to the beginning of your story, before the Premier League, before the Cup finals, before VAR joined the IRS and IBS as the three letters that can ruin your entire weekend. You grew up near me in the Wirral, that slither of land that sticks out like a hangnail across the River Mersey. You were a football-mad kid, a goalkeeper, finished school age 16. You said you originally started refereeing as a way to get into shape for fitness. You're also working full-time at a chicken slaughterhouse. You'd leave work at 5 a.m, finish your shift at 2 p.m. You'd work a match that night and get home at 3 a.m. to do it all over the next day. What was refereeing for you originally? Was it a distraction, a hobby, just the world's most polarizing fitness program until CrossFit was invented?
No, I think for me, I mean, as I said, when you mentioned there, with regards to the fitness wise, it was it's a case of finished school, was out of work for 6 months, kind of got myself, I wasn't in good shape anyway, got myself in a worse shape, and I thought to myself, well, I can't play football anymore. Too big for the goalkeeper, never played outfield. So I thought, next best thing, try and take the referee's course, which I did in 1985, and it kind of went from there, but just more as a hobby, just to start with more than anything, because obviously at the time there was no full-time referees. That didn't come till a lot later, probably 15, 16 years later. So it's more just a hobby and just enjoy. Still watch the football on a Saturday afternoon, which I always do anyway. Referee on a Sunday morning, still work obviously 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. But yeah, it was just a hobby to start with. Obviously, one thing leads to another, and you know, before you know it, things kind of develop a lot more. So in 1985, it was just a thing of like, get myself fit, get myself back into shape, and trying to stay fit, really, and then just trying to enjoy football.
That first match you ever refereed, and I love this story because it shows greatness comes from humble origins. It was in your hometown. I believe it was the Heswell under-11s taking on the mighty Alex Imps.
Yeah.
And I believe that match was shown on pay-per-view. But what do you remember about that game?
Yeah, it's one of those where we played it. We got changed to Heswell Football Club's dressing rooms, and we had the smaller pitch on the other side, the other side of the field, which was under 11's pitch. So I got there dead early, thinking I was going to be dead keen and ready for it. And everybody kind of gone out. I thought, why is it quiet and there's nobody in? And I walked out and the dressing rooms were shut, so I had to shout somebody out the window, so I had to come back and let me out, because I think usually when the referees, because I was obviously one of the youngest at the time, I was only 17, 18. I think the older statesmen that were doing it when they were on 40s and 50s just used to turn up in the kit, park in a car park, get out the car and just walk straight down to the pitch, which is right next to the car park. So, but I just done it properly, got changed where the players got changed, and found myself locked in the dressing room, which was pretty embarrassing really from the first ever game. So, but it was all right. It's a nice story to tell before when you start refereeing.
Yeah, great career, almost nipped in the bud by Rusty Locksmith's work. And that experience did not stop you, Mike Dean, Because nothing did. You work your way up 1 week at a time, one league level at a time, as you travel to glamorous English outposts like Carlisle and Scunthorpe. And in the year 2000, you were named to the select group of referees, England's top level of match officials, who were chosen for Premier League matches. Here's what so many fans don't understand about referees when we see them, Mike. You worked for over 15 years to reach that milestone. What did it take mentally to get to that point?
I think when you start, it's a bit different. Obviously, the ladder for promotion and progression's a lot easier now. But obviously, when I started in 85, it wasn't a full-time job. So I did have to still obviously work full-time and then just do refereeing as a part-time thing. So there was no pressure when you were refereeing a part-time because your pressure was your job. You had to hold your job down full-time.
At the chicken slaughterhouse?
Yeah, at the time I was. Yeah, I moved into that because it was the only kind of job close to me that I could probably get in, because obviously jobs were quite hard to find at the time. So I'm leaving work at probably 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock to get home, to get changed, get my suit and then travel to the game. Game finished at 10. By the time we finished, leave 10:30, getting up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, stuff off, kit in the wash, 2 hours sleep and away you go again. But that's how it was. And it sounds daft this, but that's how it is now still for guys who are refereeing now, still in League One and League Two and the National League in the UK, who are not full-time. And obviously I was quite lucky because in 97, when I got on the Football League list, there was whispers even then that the Premier League might be going full-time with full-time referees. So that was the carrot that was kind of not dangling in front of me, because obviously when you first got in 97, there's probably 30, 40, 50 guys in front of you anyway, are going to be chosen before you anyway. So you had to knuckle down for 2 or 3 years, and then hopefully it was going to happen. And it nearly happened to start in 99 season. It didn't. And then it started, obviously I got a whisper then I had a chance of getting on in 2000. Obviously I got asked if I'd be interested in going full time, which was just a no-brainer. So it's one of those where you still want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and slaughter chickens in a chicken house and come home, or do you still want to have a bit of a lie-in, get up, train when you want to train, meet 25, 30 guys every other week? And it probably took me at least a second to decide what I was going to do.
When you weighed the decision up like that?
That full-time contract was worth more than what the 2 jobs I was doing at the same time. So it was just a no-brainer. It was just a no-brainer to accept a position as a full-time referee. And obviously then I was involved with the likes of Graham Paul, Graham Bob and people like that, the guys who are well-known referees. So, and that's how it all started in 2000. So it was just a massive step then. And from then on, it was just onwards and upwards all the time, which is really good.
I love the way you frame that life decision, the turning point. How much do I really like slaughtering chickens is really, how committed am I to that slaughter is really the question you ask yourself. And that was obviously, listening to that journey, it is a reminder, however bad the referees get it, the chickens have it worse. But
they have it a lot worse. A lot worse.
But
a lot worse.
We'll save that conversation for my other podcast, Vegetarianism Today. Yeah. But I mean, you talk about this journey. When you made it to the Premier League from obscurity, Heswall under 11s, I mean, what did that feel like in that moment? There must have been a remarkable pride, or was it a moment also of fear, like, holy crap, I am in the big time, I'm in the spotlight?
Yeah, a bit of both. Obviously, pride is obviously, it was amazing because, they only picked a certain amount of referees to actually start the journey as full time, and I was lucky enough to be one of the ones that got taken on. And only 3 years before that, I'd only just been on the Football League referee in League One and League Two and the odd championship game, or Football League One as it was called then. But obviously then you move into the full-time status as refereeing, and then obviously you sit in a room with the likes I said before, Paul Barber, Jeff Winter, Paul Durkin, Steve Dunn, big names that have been around for years. So I walk in the room with them, and I wouldn't say I was a big referee in League One and League Two, but I was, after 3 years, you're probably established a bit more because in League One and League Two, you go and referee the same teams probably every 6-7 weeks. So players will get to know you. Manager will get to know you, the chairmen will get to know you, so it's a bit easier to communicate with them. But obviously then you move out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, where you're walking into a room of referees who get to introduce themselves in front of everybody. And for me to stand and say who I was, people didn't know who I was, but then Graham Paul stands up and everybody knew who Graham was anyway. So because he'd done World Cups, etc., and things like that, and all European games. So it was just a massive leap for me. And it was the same, moving on 15, 20, 30, 25 years, when I come to the end of my refereeing career, when young guys came in, they were probably in the same position how I felt when I first went in 2000, because it's exactly the same for everybody else when you move in. Same in your line of job. If you get a chance to go somewhere else, you've got to impress your bosses first, which is what you've got to do. So it was a massive step to start with, from going from top referee in League One and League Two to being like the lowest ranked referee in the Premier League.
I bet no one would hire me, Mike Dean.
Well, somebody else, because you've got this job now, so someone must be stuck in to do it.
I mean, I just love that notion of, you speaking to that group of referees for the first time. Mike Dean, you don't know who I am, but you very much soon will. I mean, I'm listening to you name that list, that pantheon of greats. You talked earlier about the 50 referees who are ahead of you. I know it's a fraternity. Is the competition amongst those referees? There has to be to get ahead, to move ahead, to get that list. Always another level.
Yeah, I mean, there always is. I mean, even when I got out, I wanted to try and referee 10 Premier League games a season, and I think in the first year, I'd done 20, so that was a right bonus. But I think you want to impress. There is pressure on it because you don't want to walk in and think, "Oh, I am Mike Dean. I am going to referee," because nobody knew who I was. But 15 years later, it was a bit easy because I could walk in and say, "I am Mike Dean. I want to referee this kind of game." So. But you did want to try and do the big games all the time. I knew, obviously, the first 2 or 3 years, I was never going to do United City, Tottenham, Arsenal, that kind of game, or Sheffield Derby kind of thing, or Newcastle, Sunderland, them kind of games. But you want to put yourself in a position where if you're refereeing well anyway, things are, well, he's doing okay doing these games where teams are probably 7th, 8th, 10th in the league. Maybe if you do step up, you can do a game such as Tottenham against Arsenal eventually. And to be fair, I probably did it in the second season. They were kind of pushing young referees, and I got in the Premier League. I think it was 30, might have been 32. I think, which is not young, now, but it was at the time. So I thought to myself, I've got 15 years here of being a Premier League referee. If I push myself, can I reach the top quicker than I expected to reach the top? Because I thought it might take 5-10 years. And to be fair, once I started doing the bigger games, again, even though it's not being arrogant, but just found a bit more confidence in my voice to saying, well, I kind of enjoyed doing them games, and I could kind of, I used to watch games all the time, thinking, "Oh Christ, I'd love to do that." And then you walk out there and you walk on the pitch, and you're kind of in awe of people such as Paul Ince, Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, people like that. Even Roy Keane. People, you think, "Oh crikey, I'm actually refereeing these people." Whereas 5 years ago, I never thought to be anywhere near doing this, and it puts a lot of pressure on because they know they know it's your first couple of years as a referee, and they'll try it on with you.
I want to talk about that, but you do know that the referee is the one that picks the match ball off that plinth when they all walk out the tunnel. The referee, that's why we watch. I mean, you must get that buzz when you walk out there, ahead of a massive game. Is that's why you wanted the big game? It was just like you knew the decision making, all eyes were on you.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I used to get nervous in the early years because you didn't want to make a mistake, because the way it used to work years ago, it doesn't work a lot now, but if you made a massive ricket in a massive game, you probably wouldn't do another big game for 3 or 4 weeks. You probably would go down Championship, League One, League Two, because that's how it used to be way back. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough to start with, but you've got to, like any job, you've got to earn your stripes. You've got to earn the big games. You put the performances in for where you're going to get your just desserts in the end.
When you get your assignment for the weekend, how do you prepare? Did you watch tape of the teams, like as if you're a manager? Do you watch specific players for their tricks, their tousery?
Yeah, I think when we first got on in 2000, we used to get this is before emails and things. This is how daft it is now. You used to get it posted to you by the Royal Mail. You used to get your fixtures in an envelope, so anybody could know. You used to, because that's how it used to be. You back to 20, 25 years ago, everything was posted. There was no email. There's no emails. We never had laptops, so we used to get it through the post. You used to knew what day it was coming. You just wait for the post. Have a look at your little booklet. Go down your name, find your games. I've got this game, that game, that. Put it in the old yellow marker. Make sure you knew where you were going and see what other guys were doing. So that was a bit different then, because you didn't have the access to what we've got now. So obviously, you go back 25 years ago, we had no laptops, no things to look at to how they lined up. You just watch a match a day and clips like that. Obviously, the further on we went, when we went to emails and we got given laptops, we got access to all this stuff with UEFA and FIFA and this Y-Scout where you can log on, look at what teams actually doing.
Is there a Whistle Boys WhatsApp group where you all share tips?
No, it's the same as what the MLS referees and what the MLS players do. They'll have gone to Y-Scout, they can log on and see and if one team's playing another team in LA Galaxy play LA somebody else, and then they can look on, see where they are for set pieces, how they're going to line up, what kind of corners they do, just stuff like that. And that's what we used to do as referees. So what they might line up at corners, if they're getting beat 1-0, would they be a bit more attacking in a way? If they're losing 1-0, do they slow the game down? Does the goalkeeper go down to waste a bit of time? Because full well, If the trainer comes on the goal, he's not going to go off, which does happen or did happen. It probably still does now, actually, to be fair. But players just go down failing, slow the game down. So you kind of know full well if a team's going to lose 1-0, they know full well right straight away. We used to say to the guys on the earpiece when we were obviously introduced to those, we know what's going to happen. They're going to slow the game down. Let's just be mindful of what's going on. Stay switched on. Have a chat with the captain. Just say, look, we're not trying to prejudge anything, but we know what goes on when you go 1-0 up, because we all know. And they probably know exactly what the other team does if they go 1-0 down. So you just try to stay one step ahead of them all. But I said, when we got all the information through with laptop and stuff, it was dead easy because you could log on. What I used to do, obviously the further way on towards the end of my career, is if I got an assignment on a Tuesday morning, which is what we get now, Tuesday mornings before a weekend game, said Manchester United, Manchester City, I do my piece. I get one assistant referee to look at how Manchester City would line up, one assistant referee to look at how Manchester United line up. We meet at the hotel, probably on the Friday night, have a chat, have a meal. We would go through all the laptops, what we would do. So I had one assistant referee saying, right, at corners, we've got to look for this. At corners, we've got to look for that. The other assistant would say, and the guy who was like the non-active assistant, so to speak, on the off-whaler would say, well, I'll look at for this at the near post, that at the back post. Just got to, we got 4 sets of eyes just watching what's going on.
God, teamwork makes the dream work. You guys must have had a dossier on Neil Mopay that was like longer than my arm.
We had a dossier on every single team because that's what we do, and that's what we have to do. So whatever dossier we kept, if I was refereeing another team the week after, I'd have another referee saying, you refereed Man United last week. How did they get on set piece? What were they like? And you just pass on the information just so we're trying to stay one step ahead of what's going on.
The amount of information you know. I actually want you to be the next manager of Everton Football Club, Mike Dean. But speaking of managers...
Too hard a job, that.
I want to talk about managers. You've talked about how Arsene Wenger, former Arsenal iconic boss, patron saint of long zippers, was one of the most challenging managers you face on a regular basis because he, quote, wanted the best for Arsenal all the time. And if he could get any way of getting one over you, he would do. Who was the toughest manager and what tricks did they play to challenge your authority?
I think there's I wouldn't say it's tricks. I think what it is that I've always said Arsenal was the hardest one because it wasn't my fault. But every time I refereed Arsenal, they never won. Well, they did win some of the games, but they were playing teams with no disrespect to them. I had them against Wigan in the FA Cup, who were like 2 leagues below. Hull, who were 2 leagues below in another cup. They lost the game, and it's all my fault because they lost it. If they can't beat them teams on them games, then there's nothing down for us, is there? But I mean, I've made some bad decisions when I've had Arsenal. I've made some bad decisions with other clubs as well. But I think I always found Arsenal really, really hard. I think sometimes speaking to people since I've finished within Arsenal, who obviously not there now, I think when they found out that I was refereeing on a Tuesday, straight away it was just like a negative kind of vibe with certain people in the club. Oh, we've got him this weekend. We know what's going to happen. We're not going to win. He's not going to give us this, not give us that, which is absolute rubbish. But it's sometimes you manage kind of psych themselves out of the game before the weekends even start. So you walk out straight away, and it's just like a negative kind of approach, and it's just how it was with Arsenal. I just found him a hard team to referee, and I found him hard. Other managers have been fine. I mean, they always say about Ferguson. Ferguson was always hard work. He was, but he never really came in the dressing room afterwards. That was just a bit of a myth. Well, it was for me. He never came in. He'd go on the TV and he'd say certain things. I've spoke to the referee about this. I'm not happy with that, and he hasn't. But he'll just say it because the way Fergie was, whatever he said, everybody agreed with what he said because he was just the biggest icon going, was he? If Ferguson said the grass is blue, we'd say, well, it probably is blue. Actually, it's our TV colour that's wrong on the TV. But what's the fact? So, whatever he used to say used to go. There's other managers that I use like Mourinho.
You like Jose Mourinho?
Win, lose or draw, he would always come in no matter what and shake your hand and ask, why have you done this? Why have you done that? And just leave and move out. But he never used to leave in a bad mood, if you know what I mean. He was always leaving kind of a positive mood. So, and I know I was sorry with him once. I was doing that wonderful job we used to stand behind the goal and do nothing in the European football. I was on a semi-final with Howard Webb. We'd done Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund at the Bernabeu, and the game finished. I think Howard made a decision that kind of Jose didn't like, and he's coming in and I had a right go at Howard, and I was kind of give his bit back, and I kind of tried to step. We've all kind of tried to stick over each other, and then he said, "Right, that's finished," and he sat down and said, "Right, anybody want a beer?" And he just standing there to beer with us all before he left, just because there's nothing we can change once the game's finished. he wants to put his two penalty across, which he did, and then once he's put his two penalty across, he's going to leave the dressing room in a better mood if he sits down as a chat with us like a normal. Because all he'll do then, he'll ask how the football is back in the UK, what the team's like in the UK, any referees coming through in the UK. I'll just talk about Chelsea in general, other teams in general that he would have managed, and general chat, he leaves on good terms. And then when you see him again, it's just nice as pie, just move on.
Jose Mourinho, charm offensive. We see it every weekend. You mentioned the players. An official's about to make a decision. He's surrounded by players from both teams. They're all pleading their cases, like drivers trying to talk their way out of a speeding ticket. How often can a player make you change your mind or even second guess yourself a little bit?
I think going back to the early days, I wouldn't say they can make you change your mind, because once you've made your decision, you wouldn't change it unless, the guys will tell you piece, you've made a complete ricket. I think the way the technology is now with regards of VAR, etc., if you've made a mistake, VAR will rectify the mistake. So if you've obviously sent a player off anything and the player goes, I haven't touched him, and the footage shows you clearly have it's a clear and obvious error, then VAR will bail out the shit, so to speak. You know what I mean? Which they will. Which they will get you out. They will get the ref out the shit now if they have to. But before, when you didn't have VAR, whatever decision you made, it stood. They then had the right to appeal. And if they win the appeal, they win the appeal. But now there's still a right to appeal now. With VAR, you've had like 2 or 3 sets of eyes looking at it, and people come to the same decisions. Not very often how the players challenge a send-off, because referees made the decision, VAR's had a look at it, a panel's had a look at it, and then they've agreed with the decision. So it's very rare now that somebody does appeal. So they very, very rarely they can make you change your mind, because once you're adamant it's a penalty kick or it's a free kick or it's a send-off, you're not going to say, I'll tell you what, I think I've said, I don't think it is a send-off, I'll call him back on, it wouldn't happen. You just have to hit the wrath of it and then have a chat with somebody at the end of it. But it's very, very rare, very, very rare.
Former Premier League referee Howard Webb once said that he learnt to say the word wanker in 13 different languages, so he'd know what the players were saying about him.
Yeah, but I think if you said the word wanker, it doesn't matter what country they're from, they'd know exactly what it is. Trust me.
Trust me. I just love the commitment to the craft that he went about being a polyglot, but just for one word.
But to be fair, you've got to be quite a sad sod to learn that word in 13 different languages. I'll be honest with you. You only need to really English, Spanish, and probably maybe a bit of Portuguese, and you probably get away with it all, because everybody will know someone somewhere on the line, won't you? Unless you do the World Cup in bloody Japan and South Korea in 2000 and whatever, or 2006, you need to have a few more languages then, wouldn't you? So.
Was there a single player who was just like most terrifying to you when you look back on it?
I wouldn't say terrifying. I think the hardest player, I think I mentioned before, was Joey Bart. When Joey played, I found Joey quite hard.
I don't think you're alone there, Mike.
Yeah, I think because he's from the neck of the woods where I was, where I am, he's okay. I found Craig Bellamy really, really hard, like most referees did.
Bellamy's just mouth. Is it just a mouth that does?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, he used to be. I mean, I watched him I watched the Wales game this week when they won in Montenegro, and he had a bit of a moan at the sideline, but he's calmed down as a manager. I think the position you are as a manager and a coach now, you can't afford to get yourself sent off, because you kind of pull the strings. Whereas if you're a player, I know you can't afford to get sent off, but you have got another teammates that can probably rally around. Whereas you're a coach and you're trying to boss it, you can't afford to be in the stand talking to somebody on an earpiece. By the time it goes down, tell them to do that, somebody else will say, by the time it gets to the pitch, it's completely the wrong information, isn't it? So you need to be in the technical area and sort himself out that way.
Being a referee, I've got to be honest, mate, it often feels like a thankless task. I once interviewed an offensive lineman in the NFL, and he said to me, the only time he was ever talked about was when he made mistakes, or else the work he did was just never noticed. And when he said that, I thought about referees, because they are by and large the same. We only recognise their ups in the social media age, like hysteria now ensues. Can you put into words, Mike Dean, what you liked about being a professional referee?
To start with, professional, when I got in 2000, I think it sounds daft, like it was just a privilege to be on a pitch with all those star-studded players, because at the time when the Premier League was really got going between probably 2000 probably 2015, we had like every single player in the world wanted to play in the Premier League, because that's kind of where the money was. But I think that when I first got in 2000 probably 15, every single big player wanted to play in the Premier League because it was the best. I still think it is now. I still think it's the best league in the world now. But I like being out there, enjoying myself. And I said before that I think that when I walk out on the pitch, there's people, but that sounds awful, this is what I'm going to say, people pay 100 quid to go and watch a football. I've got it free of charge. I've got the best seats in the house. I've got the best eye view going. and I can like, I'm in charge of all this. Whatever I decision I'm going to do, I'm going to upset half the stadium and other stadium. I think I'm the best referee in the world, but I just loved being out there.
And that's what you liked. Did you like that? That feeling like you had the power to upset this half. I'm going to upset you now. Now this half.
I've done it often enough, trust me. But I used to like going out there and enjoy myself. And obviously, everybody knows the longer I refereed, after probably 10 years, I kind of enjoyed myself a lot more because I was in that position where...
What were you enjoying? Because the stress... The pressure, the crucible, one wrong mistake, you're always, it's a tightrope walker. I love your thing about the £100 in the audience, but you see it for free. You're not really watching it like, oh, good pass. Oh, what a ball.
Well, you do. You'll be surprised what some of the guys do. It's a bit different now because they don't speak as much as what they used to, but we used to commentate the guys with the ear. We said that's good ball, or you say one line over here, someone's free. Just because you're aware, if someone was free on the left wing and the ball was on the right, I'd have the assistant referee behind me saying, say for instance, Ronaldo's free on the left wing if they played the right ball, and you know full well what's going on. So you switch on with what's going on. Guys do talk about the game as it's going on.
They do.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. You'd be surprised what this.
So you are actually able to enjoy it. Yeah. You're not like just maniacally stressed about offside, about fouls, about.
If you get too stressed about the job, like any job, you'll go to rack. You'll go to pieces. You'll be in a right mess.
So there's that amazing clip of you. There's a goal scored and you run off and you like punch the air.
Tottenham Aston Villa. I was proud of my own work, which is a bit. Not really good, but I played an advantage, which was good. It worked, and someone scored. And I just got away. Yeah, happy days. That'll do. And then I didn't. It just went off on one. So, but I didn't punch it like Mike Reid did at Liverpool all them years ago. But I think I think I enjoyed the job, and I think again, without being big-headed, the longer I was on, I probably had no fear of getting taken off through performance. If that sounds daft, because they probably wouldn't remove a referee who's been on for 20 years because
you're Mike effing Dean.
Well, no, it's a Michael L. Dean. So,
there you go.
But what I mean is, though, the longer you've been on, it's a lot harder to remove somebody because you're established on there. You know what's going on. You know what you can and you can't do. Obviously, being full time, you've got to go through procedures like any job because we're employees, aren't we? So, make a mistake or you do something wrong, you're going to get pulled. Your usual verbals, written, and final warnings kind of thing. But the longer you go on, you can express yourself more. And the last 10 years, I've never enjoyed a job so much in my life, believe it or not.
I love it. You are a rare human being. Referee Andre Mariner once said, I can't think of any other job where there's this much scrutiny over decision making. Maybe a surgeon has more, but nobody else. It's an incredible observation.
Yeah, but the thing is with the job, you'd rather have a job where you're constantly getting assessed, you're constantly getting watched, you're constantly getting criticised, good or bad. There's a lot more good in it now than what there used to be because there's people who are a bit more switched on now. So obviously you go back 10 years ago, you'd watch all the TV programs and the guys who were presenting stuff didn't have a clue about the laws of the game. But now they all know the laws of the game, or they say they do, or they should do. So sometimes they quote law now, whereas before they used to say it's all wrong. They used to, all the phrases were wrong. Whereas now on the TV, and you might have the same in the US as well, that before you go onto a TV show, I know full well, speaking to people when I was in Qatar for the World Cup, they do get a briefing before they go on of why this has been made, so they don't quote stuff that's wrong in law because you just get wrong.
That's fair, but it is psychologically damaging. PGMOL, the group that oversees English match officials, has a psychiatrist on staff. How do you develop the mentality to cope with? You can be dragged for weeks on social media, week in, week out. You did this for 20 years. Did you get psychological training for your mental well-being, or is it just natural?
I think we have got the training if we wanted it. Some guys, I should say, use the psychologist more than others. I tried not to because I thought to myself, do I need help to try and get my head around it? I've done it for 15 years. When all the psychologists come in, do I need a different change of direction? I said to myself, no, I didn't. I want to stay doing what I'm doing because not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. So,
do you just have a natural resilience, Mike? Or is it just like Liverpool swagger? You think it is just Liverpool swagger?
No, because I'm from the Wirral, so don't call me a Scouser. That won't go down well over here. And you know that wouldn't go down well. So don't suck me into that Liverpool Scouser kind of thing because you're in trouble, you are there. But no, I think the thick skin, I always say, try not to change stuff. So, yes, you do get criticised on social media and you get a lot more. And I've obviously I've had a situation 3 or 4 years ago. I had death threats and things, which was pretty tough. But going back to the resilience side of it, I think that the longer you are on without being blasé, you kind of learn not to listen to it. I guess you see it, but I think I've said before, if you make a mistake at Manchester City, it's big news. It's on the info bar on Sky till Wednesday or Thursday. You make a mistake with no disrespect to a so-called two lesser teams, as they say. By Sunday, no one's interested because it's a smaller game. They're going to say so. It does make bigger headline because it doesn't, and that's always been the way. You need a bit of thick skin to be a referee. I've said that before. You have to have a thick skin. You can't not. You've got a bit of resilience about you. You've got to have a bit of, how should you say, a bit of madness about you as well to be a ref. Everybody says, which you probably have, because people say, why do you want to be a referee? And I think the reason you want to be a referee is now, especially at this time of the era, is it's a full-time job, and that's what people want to do. They want to be referees, because I'd like to think what I've done, what Howard's done, what Graham's done over the years, Graham Paul, that they think, crikey, I wouldn't mind doing that myself. And people are taking up refereeing when they leave school because they want to be that as a full-time job. They don't want to be working in an office. They want to be doing full-time refereeing. They want to be going to training camps every 2 weeks. They want to be getting on the UEFA and the FIFA list and doing games abroad and things like that. So that's what they want to do now.
We've got to talk about the red cards, because Mike Dean and red cards go together like Harper Stern and burning bridges. The first red you gave, 2001, to Newcastle midfielder Norberto Solano during a match against Ipswich Town. Your final one, your 114th, was given to, do you remember who it was?
It was a guy from Brentford, I think.
Josh Da Silva.
And that was down to a VAR intervention, because I think I went to send off the wrong. I'll give the decision the wrong way because I read it the wrong way, and then I'll give some cards. So I changed it and sent.
God bless. February 2022, also against Newcastle. Of those red cards, 114 of them, and I think 2,000 plus yellows. Are there any that you regret retrospectively?
Probably. I had a couple in my early career, obviously when I started. Whereas I think I sent a Charlton player off on the when he was on the stretcher, which wasn't ideal. I think it was Steve Brown. I think I sent off, and that wasn't the idea. And then I think it's one of them where in my head I think that's just the wrong decision. And then I think I'd done Charlton again a couple of months later against Leicester, and I sent a Leicester player off again. That was a wrong decision. I think it was one of them where I kind of got myself in a bit of a mess, and you kind of try and go back to basics and try and not look for things. I probably started looking for things in the first couple of years, trying to put a stamp on one or two things. I don't want to be as known as a soft touch. I want to send players off. If there's a chance to send them off, I'd send them off, because you want to be like a tough ref kind of thing, and that just wasn't the way. So I had to change my strategy about doing that. But I think the other red cards, there's probably none I'd probably say, well, I shouldn't have sent him off for that, or I shouldn't have sent him off for that. I think if players are going to get red carded, they deserve it. I think since we moved into the VAR era, there's not very often you send a player off that's going to be a wrong decision, because you would have got corrected one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll get to VAR in 1 second. But Mark Clattenburg came on our show and told me that during the Battle of the Bridge 2016, when Tottenham let a 2-0 half-time lead slip on the way to a draw with Chelsea, a collapse that made Leicester City Premier League champions, he told us he didn't play by the book, that although he could have sent 3 Spurs players off, he didn't, because he didn't want to make himself the story and instead manage the game. He actually told the Chelsea players on the field, trust me, Spurs will do themselves in. Mike, have you ever had to take a similar approach, knowing that sticking strictly to the laws of the game might have been the wrong decision?
I think sometimes, and when you're refereeing the big games like what Mark did that one, and we've all refereed big games, you kind of, it's a bit different now because we're moving to different era the last couple of years, but go back 5 or 6 years, you could manage a game better. Graham Paul used to always be the best man manager of a game ever. So you could have a massive, and you think to yourself, right, let's not go for the cards early. If a tackle goes in early, you can manage it. We'll manage it. I don't think you can now, because there's different directives with things, the way the new referees are coming through. So you could manage it 5, 6 years ago. I don't think you can manage stuff now. You've got to do it by the book now. The older molder referee, the likes of Mark, likes of myself, like of Mark Halsey, Graham Paul, there's them kind of refs we haven't got anymore, I don't think. We've got 1 or 2. I think Oliver and Taylor, I think they're good man management referees, but they also have to play by the book, because obviously they're in the elite group of UEFA from FIFA, and they want to be going to the US in 2026 for the World Cup, so they've got to play by the book there. I think there's been a lot of referees that want to manage more now, but I just don't think that the hierarchy will let them manage anymore. Certain directives, we've got to adhere to, where 5 year who could manage a certain situation. You can't manage it now. I think there's characters gone out of the game now, refereeing wise, where I think sometimes players can't have a good rapport with the referees anymore, because I think the refs are kind of told now, if you can see on the TV now, they kind of make the decision, disappear, don't chat, don't interact, and you think so. I think I said before, even on Soccer Saturday that I'm on now every week, that I don't think I'd enjoy it now, because I like talking to players, and I think for me to give a player a red card and then or talk to a player and they say, "Oh, you can't talk," it'd just be wrong for me to do that. I just don't think I'd enjoy it. Players that want to know, why aren't you talking to me anymore? Why can't we communicate? We used to always communicate, and the game's just changed and evolved a lot more now. I find it really hard now watching some of the stuff.
I want to talk to you about VAR. It's fair to say you got mixed feelings about it, about the technology. You wore that beautiful, you're just taking the piss out of my sweater. You wore a beautiful VAR humbug sweater.
Yeah, but mine was Christmas. You're wearing that in the bloody summer, so that's just really bad thing to wear in the summer.
Oh, Mike Metcalfer, you and I got a game. I got to say, you've also spoken about the difficulty VAR presents. I am fascinated. Well, two questions. Number one, when a referee is overruled by VAR, is it how does it feel internally? Is it embarrassing for them? Is it like is it something that sticks in their head as they continue the rest of the game? And how can the officials be better equipped to work through situations? Is there a way VAR can become more effective?
I think that going back to when we first started in the Premier League, I hated it, and that was I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me, because I think I refereed for 20 years. Like the older statesmen of players have played for 10 or 15 years, no VAR, and all of a sudden I'm refereeing and someone saying to me, "Mike, I've got a bit of information for you. You need to disallow that goal, or you need to send that player off." Because when we first started, we had no screen. It was basically the VR told you in your ear, "You've got to send that player for that tackle," so you did. That was fit. I found that negative for me, because I've done it for 15 years without somebody telling me what to do. I think the older referees kind of felt the same. I think the new influx of guys coming through now, it's a lot easier for them now. I don't think they get affected if they make a mistake, because the bigger picture is we want the right decision. So if it takes 5 minutes or it takes 25 minutes, which won't take that long, hopefully, but you never know over here. As long as we get to the right decision, that's all we want. And I think that the referees have come round to now to kind of agreeing that it doesn't matter if they make a mistake on field, because if it's the wrong mistake, they'll get changed. There'll be a bit clear obvious error. It's all changed this year. Howard's brought new things in now called like the referee's call. So if a referee makes an on-field decision that's not clear and obviously wrong, they're sticking with it, a bit like the cricket situation, which I think is a great idea, because you can give a penalty at one and not give a penalty at the other end. Not similar kind of incidents, but wherever the referee gives, if he didn't give it, you'd stick with it. If he did give it, you'd stick with it. So it's one of them where I think the players have come round to that now, where they know now if the referee makes an on-field decision, it more than likely stick with it, unless you have a really bad decision in the VAR hub. I think we've only had one bad decision this year so far in 30 games in the VAR. I think disallowed goal of Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth and Newcastle the other week for the handball, which just what the VAR just made a clear and obvious mistake there. But I think other stuff getting involved where, I think guys are saying, the handball situation we've got this year, it's a big change of what we've done, because we used to give handballs for fun in the Premier League, but now even commentators now, when I'm working on the Sunday afternoon for doing the Super Sunday games with Peter Drury, and Peter says straight away, as soon as he hits his head, he knows it's not going to be handball, because what he's been told, because it's like kind of tucked in, or is there normal movement to the arm, they know it's not going to be given. Whereas last year it was a toss of a coin: is it going to be given, is it not going to be given? So it's getting a bit more clearer now. I think it'll always evolve. I think by the World Cup comes in 2026, there'll be even more things coming. I think 2028, it'll just change every year. There'll be new things brought in to try and make the game a bit easier. And I think the referees are getting used to it now. And I think the young referees that are coming through, they've started on the Premier League with VAR. They're kind of getting used to it now. The training's a lot better with the VAR. It's the same in all over the world now with the VAR. So it is getting easier. As much as players and fans don't like it, it's never going to go away, unfortunately, whether people like it. It's never going away. It's here forever, VAR. It'll never go away, because that's what football wants now. That's what the clubs want. The clubs want the VAR. They wanted lesser mistakes. Yes, we had a few when we first started, because you're bound to, because you're not too sure what kind of level to pitch it. But now it's getting a lot better, and it will improve. It's never going to be 100%. Nothing ever is, but it will get better.
Your final game, Watford at Chelsea, May 22nd, 2022. I love this. You played Europe's The Final Countdown on your phone in the officials' dressing room, bangers only, for the Mike Dean send-off, and then you headed out onto the field. And I've wondered, What was it like for you to move on, to become Mike Dean, former referee? This hasn't just been your job, it's been your identity since you were a teenager. Is there anything you miss, Mike?
Yeah, I don't miss the reffing. To be fair, I finished, when I first finished in May, they wanted me to go into full-time VR role, and I said, I don't know, because I wasn't too sure. So I thought I'd give it a go, and me and a couple of the other guys done the VR role. But I missed the refereeing for the first probably month, because obviously the appointments come out with emails. I was still getting them on because it was on the list of VRs. I could say, I thought, I could referee in that game, I could referee in that game. And then you kind of, after a month's gone, you kind of get into the VR and do it. And I made a few mistakes with VR, because I said before, when I was refereeing, I used to talk all the time when I was refereeing with VR. So, joking apart, we used to be sat there, me and me mate who was sat next to me, and I'd just say, someone has a shop in 25 yards away. I used to say, how's he not at the target from there? You'd say that in general chat because no one could hear you. But then it all started getting recorded, so you had to change the way you did it. So basically the guys go on there now, they can't say nothing apart from what goes on in the game. You can't have a laugh or a joke. That's how I just wouldn't enjoy it. So, and to be fair, mate, I don't miss the reffing at all. I think I said before, not even on Soccer Saturday, that I don't miss what goes on now. I don't think I could referee in this kind of, I wouldn't say imbibe, this just the way it is. I just don't think the referees that are out there, they don't seem to be enjoying the job anymore. One or two guys do, but some of the guys just look too tense, too scared to make decisions. I think they just like, as if they're going through the motions. I mean, I'd love to get back involved with the Premier League and just go and just say, right, you lot just like, forget this for 1 week and just go and just enjoy yourself. Go and referee as if there's no pressure on it, because I think the difference will be massive. I really do.
I mean, it is amazing. Your job was propelled by passion. It sounds like that passion has become harder and harder to find for modern day referees. We got a question from a GFOP, Ben Steckel from Chicago, who asked, Mike Dean, what advice would you give someone who's seriously considering a career in refereeing?
Well, don't listen to this podcast for a start. Because I've been a bit negative on one or two things, but I think serious. I always say to guys that when guys start becoming a referee, is that as much as you want to reach the top as quick as you want to reach the top, because you have the ability to get there, or people have said you've got a chance of getting there. Just don't set your goals too high. So if you get on, like when I go, I was like class 3, class 2, class 1, and you were on, but now it's like level 6, level 7, level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and over to the Premier League. So if you're a level 6 referee or whatever it is you have over in the States, your next level should just be, I want to get to level 5, and then I want to get to level 4. Don't think to yourself, I'm level 6 now, I want to be on the MLS referees list in 3 years' time, because it probably is not going to happen. So if it doesn't happen, don't get depressed and get mad about it, because it's just the way it is. You've got to get, your next step should be a bit like any job. If you're on the shop floor, you might want to be a supervisor or be a managerial. You've kind of got to go from one step at a time and just take your time. Focus on your next promotion on the refereeing ladder, whether it be parks football to semi-professional football to full-time football. The higher you go up in the refereeing ladder, more branches do open, because there's a lot more people that are watching, because you'll get people feeding back out while you're refereeing. There'll be people watching all the time. You'll be talent spotted. We have it over in the UK now, talent spot refereeing.
And celebrate your advantages when they lead to goals. That's all you need to know.
Always.
How do you watch football now? Do you watch the football, or are you watching the referees, watching the watchmen?
No, I mean, I just go and watch Tranmere when I can, whenever I can, go and watch Tranmere. I watch him home and away all the time. My daughter goes home and away all the time as well. So I watch them all the time. Yes, I do go there, and like I said, that's a foul. I'm sitting there, that's a foul. My daughter just says, "Dad, have a day off. Just have a day off." But you can't, but I'll be sat in the stand at Tranmere watching the match. I'll get people turning around to me, or people tap me on the shoulder, mate. Mike, is that right? I said, I don't know if it's right or not, because I don't referee anymore. So
do you get a phantom itch to like lift a red card? Do you know where you're in the crowd, you just like suddenly get like a phantom limb?
No, you do get some people saying to you, "Have you got any red and yellow cards in your wallet?" And
do you know where they are? Do you know like a sheriff knows where his badge is?
I know where they are. They haven't moved for 2 years. I haven't ref for 2 years. They're still in the same bag when I finished reffing in May 2022. But I do enjoy watching the football, yes, but I do also watch the referee. I can't not. It's just the way it is. But if I'm watching Tranmere, referee drops a wicket, I'll give the referee some no danger whatsoever. Well, I'm a fan, I'm not a ref, am I? So, and I've been quite lucky, because I got invited to do some co-commentary at Tranmere against Everton in this EFL Cup. So I had to kind of comment on the game and not the referees, which was different side of it, trying not to comment on the ref. But
by the way, getting as a referee and looking up and seeing it's Mike Dean giving you from the stadium must be a little bit like getting Michelangelo to come and be your house painter. It must both be mortifying and an honour. But last question for you, Mike, and I love this. Every year, you and your daughter take a trip together. You spend a weekend somewhere in Europe watching as much football as you can. In January, the two of you went to 4 games in less than 48 hours, including a truly bonkers day where you saw games in Germany and the Netherlands. I look at those and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to do that. It's a brilliant idea. I'd love to take my kids. I've told my kids, I've said, I'd love to do the Mike Dean vacation. But I love it for another reason, Mike. You're someone that's dedicated their life to the game. You have had more people shout at them probably than anyone else in world football. You've said yourself in a serious way, you've had death threats.
Yeah.
But when I see you on those trips with your daughter and your faces, it's true that despite all you've gone through, you still have a true, passionate love of the game. It's not gone anywhere, has it?
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, I always watch football. I mean, even like, you know, when I'm away somewhere and I try and get a game in somewhere. I mean, I'm in Spain next week doing a bit of golf. I'm doing a bit of caddying for the women's golf next week. And there's a game in Valencia. So I'm going to go and watch Valencia against Girona a week on Saturday because I can, basically. I went in May with my daughter. We flew into Holland on the Sunday morning. We watched Zwolle against Heracles at 12 o'clock. Vitesse Arnhem and somebody else at 3:30. And we got the plane back and forth at 9 o'clock. So it's 2 games in a day. But we're going this year. I'm quite lucky because we'll go on a Friday and we'll try and we'll definitely get 3 in, try and get 4 in if we can. But it's just a good way of watching football. And I get tickets quite well. I always email the club and just say I'll pay for them. But luckily, I get most of them quite free, which is quite good. So, but we get director's box tickets, which is nice. So it's always a bonus.
Do you know how you say wanker in Dutch, Mike?
Wanker. See, you've only got to change one letter with one thing. Everyone knows what it means.
I'm sure Virgil van Dijk can attest. Mike, I just love your passion for football that still shines bright. The world needs more people taking Mike Dean Netherlands football vacations to you, to your family, to your football club, Tranmere. God bless. Everton are going to play Tranmere in a couple of seasons. There is no doubt.
Yeah, in League One.
Oh, God bless. Thank you, mate.
Pleasure, Rog. Cheers.
Courage.